Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Untapped Podcast. My name is Jacob Gabel.
And my name is Jacob Wurtz. Guys, welcome to YouTube exclusive number 6. Guys, if this is your first time joining us for a YouTube exclusive, first of all, thank you. We're thrilled to have you here with us. Sound familiar? With these YouTube exclusives.
Ever heard it before?
Yeah, right. If you haven't, you need to go do some homework and figure out what we're talking about. So if you have not joined us for one of these exclusives before, basically what we do is just a condensed version of our podcast that we do that we typically post weekly. It's on all audio platforms. It's also here on YouTube. But we basically do these exclusives. You know, we take 10 to 20 minutes at most usually and do just a quick topic on something. And then sometimes on the podcast, we will expand on that topic even further, or we just reserve them for these exclusives because sometimes they don't need a full-blown 40 to 60 to 90-minute episode.
Correct.
These are about all different kinds of things, just like our podcast episodes are. Tonight, we are going to talk about college. Mm-hmm. Yes or no? Is it necessary? Should you go there? Should you not go there?
Or as Europeans and Canadians call it, university.
University. Yeah, very fancy.
It's like nice, guys.
Yeah,
good
one there. You really are so much smarter than us.
Yeah,
Oxford. So yeah, we want to talk about college tonight and just some of the ideas we have on it. You know, we both only did, well, I have an associate's. I did exactly 2 years. That's it. So I don't have a bachelor's. You did a little bit over 2 years, I think, total.
Yeah,
right?
I technically have what would be considered a year left before I could get a bachelor's.
Yeah, actually, I am too, for that matter. I kind of forgot that I actually did start school after my associates. But anyway, we are two guys that do not have bachelor's degrees. Ooh, wow, crazy, you know. Two guys that don't have college degrees in a world where you're supposed to have a college degree, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Well, are you?
Well, 37% of the population does have a college degree, and then the rest of them don't.
Exactly.
So it's not as common as people might make it out to be.
Right. A lot of people have college debt. We are not. We are not a part of that.
Mm-hmm. We are debt free. Correct.
Exactly. So first, let's talk about the positives of college, because there are plenty of positives of college. Whether you go to a community college, you know, near home, or you go away for school, whether that's, you know, an hour and a half away, 3 hours away, 10 hours away, whatever. You know, first and probably the most obvious is you're going to learn things. Mm-hmm. You know, you're going to learn new things based on the major and the minor that you choose, whether it's business or med school or law school or art, you know, whatever, or gender studies.
We'll get to that one.
That's weird. Yeah. I don't even know what that means. There's 2 genders, so there you go. I guess I could be a college professor on that.
I'll be honest, I've studied male and female stuff plenty.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, just being in anatomy and physiology.
Right.
So,
yeah, no, literally.
Yeah.
But like I said on a couple podcast episodes ago, just pull down your pants. It's pretty easy to tell which gender you are.
Still one of the top lines all time on the
all-time line right there.
You know, it's interesting because higher education, I think in the last 5 years, has gotten almost an entirely somewhat negative rep in a lot of circles, to a certain degree. And, you know, Wurtz and I aren't here as 2 guys who don't have bachelor's degrees to shit on college. That's not what it's about. But we are here to, you know, accentuate, so to speak, the positives, but also warn against possible negatives that come along with it.
Right.
Just like there could be for any other path.
Yeah, of course.
As well. But, you know, and Wurtz is right. With the positives, you're naturally going to challenge your viewpoint on lots of things. You know, naturally your mind's going to be opened to a certain degree to a lot of new information, whether that's you're in calculus like an engineer or something like that, or differential equations, which look like hieroglyphs whenever I remember looking at some of my buddies who were in engineering. You know, and so that's obviously one way. Or in our case, you know, physiology 1 and 2, or anatomy 1 and 2, et cetera, that type of stuff. You know, I saw that plenty at Iowa State when I was there. And those classes were very eye-opening to a lot of stuff. Now, you know, you get eye-opened to certain things that are kind of pointless to a certain degree as well. Like
sure.
One of them was like sociology, which to a certain degree was interesting, but it was also kind of like, okay, does this actually do anything for me?
Right.
You know, or is this just a gen ed? So of course there's that as well. But yeah, you're definitely going to get your mind expanded in a lot of ways. You're also going to meet essentially every type of person possible.
Yeah.
I mean, Iowa State was a good example of that because we had anything from the Rainbow Crew up to ag farmers who came from a 2,000 acre farm and were just going to college just to go to college.
Right.
You know, so you saw everybody throughout that. And then you had the frat boys, of course, you had sorority, et cetera, all the different type of stuff.
You have people that drive, you know, big, nice trucks and BMWs and Audis. And you have people that, like me, drove a 1998 Mercury.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're going to have everything, not like, my family's not poor, but but like, you're going to have your rich people, you're going to have your poor people, you know? You're going to have all kinds of races and international people as well. Like, I think that's definitely a net positive for college, for the college experience, is you're going to meet all these people that you otherwise probably would not have. You know, my sister's a great example down in Missouri State. She's found, you know, she tried the sorority thing her freshman year and quickly found out, it's like, number one, this is a huge time commitment.
It is, yeah.
There's a financial commitment as well. And also, you know, it's just maybe not really my scene. She has found a tremendous group of people through Salt Company and through the church down there at Missouri State. And she's loving it. I mean, she's killing it down there, you know? And just last weekend, I'm sure you saw on her stories, but she had a surprise party put together for herself. Well, she didn't put the surprise party together for herself, but it was like a group of, it looked to be probably 30 or 40 people in their house, did a surprise party for her birthday that is this coming weekend. I guess when you guys are hearing this, it was this past weekend. You know, so that just tells me she, number one, has made great connections with this huge group of people that love her, care about her, you know, and wanted to do something special for her. Like, that tells me she has found a really, really great group of people, you know, and it wasn't through Greek life or something like that. That could be possible, you know, if you do go to a bigger school or whatever, and you do choose to go through with Greek life, like, you could still find that. There's no doubt about it, you know, so 100% net positive is you're going to meet all different kinds of people, you know. There's things like school spirit, you know, and the feeling of, you know, supporting your sports teams and things like that. You know, if you're at Alabama, like, you get to be a part of that crew that supports the football team. I mean, that's really exciting. There's a lot of involvement surrounding football down in Alabama, or even Mizzou. You know, Mizzou was opening day tonight when we're recording this. Like, the stadium was packed. You know, that's pretty cool to be a part of something like that, you know. And even at Middle Area where I play baseball, like, a ton of us would pack the stadium for the arena for, like, the volleyball teams and the basketball teams, you know. Like, even at a tiny JUCO like that, there's still school spirit in that and support in that and things like that, you know. Like, that's awesome, you know.
Yeah, I think that's 100% a good point, and the camaraderie that comes along with that is probably the biggest thing too.
Good way to explain it there.
I mean, naturally, like, you're going to have a bunch of alumnus whenever you graduate college in that point in time, and people that might have went to a school you did go to. For in my case, like 2 years, I went to Missouri Baptist University after that. You know, so I get to talk to both people. Oh, you went there? Okay, cool. Like, oh, you're a Cyclones fan, etc. All that stuff, and you know, so it's cool in that realm as well. I think probably the number one net positive about college, though, is going into a proper degree and the accreditation that comes along with that. You know, so if you go into engineering, you get a bachelor's degree in engineering, you went through 4 years of hell. I mean, I know plenty of engineers who went through all that, and they were some really smart dudes, and they battled through their classes. Those are the classes that you're getting 40 to 50% on a test in, but that grade curves up to 95% because of how hard the class is. Right. You know, so that's big accreditation there. Obviously, you have, you know, pre-med or medical field, that type of stuff. If you go through the 10 to 12 to down to whatever, 6 to 8 or so, depending if you're physician's assistant, all the way up to a real physician and whatnot, or a nurse practitioner. You know, that is a lot of accreditation that comes along with that, and a lot of credibility that comes along with that. So that's 100%. Like, if you're going into one of those fields, you're going to need college. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
You know, and even in our field and whatnot, we are friends with, and we know a bunch of people who have a CSCS, which is Certified Strength Conditioning Specialist, and you can only get that if you have a bachelor's degree. Right. You know, as of now, it's if you have any bachelor's degree by, I think, next year or maybe the year after that, it goes to, you have to have a degree in an actual, like, health and wellness or health and fitness field. But that's a big accreditation for trainers and strength coaches and that type of stuff. So that's a big factor in it. And of course, we're missing a bunch of other majors and whatnot, but obviously we know our physical therapists, we know our chiropractors. they have a ton of credibility.
Yeah.
Well, especially with us too. Like, there's a reason we brought Wyatt on, for example, and whatnot, because he brought a lot of value to the podcast and continues to do so for both of us as well.
Even Mitch.
Yeah. Even Mitch. Yeah.
With his cybersecurity degree and the work he's doing now, anytime we have, questions, whether it's on or off the podcast related to cybersecurity or some big social security number leak, like a couple weeks ago, it was this big thing. Every American social security number is out. So we would ask Mitch, like, hey, is this real? Like, what are you hearing about this? And he goes, he basically told us, like, it's not as bad as what they're making it sound like, so it's like he brings value even in those areas, so
Absolutely.
Like you said, there's plenty of degrees we're forgetting, there's especially nowadays, it seems like there's degrees for everything.
Yeah, there's specialties for everything. There's
specialties
minors for everything. Yeah,
and then there's also certifications for a ton of stuff, whether that's trade school or like us. We are certification based and things like that. So that also has its positives. Is going into a field that you don't necessarily have to go through 4, 6, 8+ years of schooling to work where you want to work and do what you want to do.
Right.
So let's move to some of the negatives. One of the big ones, and we talk about this all the time, but you're going to get indoctrinated, into certain ideologies, political issues, social issues, things like that. The big schools are, in ways run by the government, state or federal government, and they're influenced at a minimum by those things. That's not always a good thing. Even if it was, more right-wing or Republican or conservative, more things that we jive with compared to things on the left. But either or, it doesn't matter. It's not a good thing, because college and school in general is meant for learning information, becoming an adult, and then living your life and coming up with your values and your ideas on your own. Is that the reality of the situation of the school systems? Absolutely not.
No, it's supposed to be unbiased and objective. Like, it's supposed to be just straightforward, and that's how it is. And it's what you said. You don't want either social or political issue on either side being injected into college.
Exactly.
That's not the point of it at all. It's that credibility that you're supposed to get out of college, a college degree and whatnot. That's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
But instead, it's become, as most people know and understand, you see especially a lot of young women get very pulled into a lot of the social issues at school. It's very easy to do that because naturally, like, you want to be a part of a group. You want to connect with other ladies and whatnot. They're on the same page. Emotional, that type of stuff. And you get connected to that type of stuff. And then you get pulled down the direction of, okay, now I'm dyeing my hair blue. I've cut it to extremely short lengths. I'm changing my personality entirely. I'm changing my gender, all this other stuff, because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
So you run into those issues 100%.
Right. And I mean, hell, dude, like, even one of our former guy friends from high school, like, his brother now is a they, them, or a she, or something. Right. You know what I mean? So, like, you're right. I think the young women definitely can be influenced very easily because of emotion. But we've even seen it too with the young guys.
Absolutely.
Like, that stuff happens just as easily with them because, you just said you want to be a part of a group, you want to be a part of the thing. Well, if you feel any sense of being lost, the first thing that you find that you feel like you could fit into, you're going to try and fit into it. And whatever they're doing, you're going to start doing.
And these are extremely malleable minds too.
100%.
18 to 24-year-olds,
exactly.
26 or whatever. That's the majority there.
Right.
Those are extremely malleable minds to take on. 100%.
And people will take advantage of that.
Yeah, and we've seen actually an interesting shift too, where like young men now are actually going the opposite direction, away from all the BS and toward the conservative side of things, which is intriguing for sure. But and you're right. It's the groupthink aspect of it. That's one of the biggest net negatives with college is that groupthink aspect. Am I going to send my son or daughter to school and I'm going to spend $150,000 for them to not know what gender they are?
Yeah, exactly.
Is a actual concern you can have as a parent.
Yes.
Which is terrifying.
Right.
Because I guarantee the percentages are higher. Our generation, Gen Z, is the percentage of LGBTQ teens or whatever you want to call it has skyrocketed. It used to be 3 to 4% or less of the population. In our generation, it's 20 to 23% identify as something whether it's gay, lesbian, bisexual, or something whatever.
Right.
And it's that. That's when you start looking at that type of stuff, and that's a social contagion.
Yeah.
And college has fueled a lot of that because college pushes culture. And even at a private school like MOBAP, there was still influence from political and social issues and cultural issues that got injected into it to a certain degree. COVID was a good example of that.
Yeah.
You know, like you would expect a Baptist school to be really strict on it. Were they?
Right.
You could probably ask me in person and I'd tell you no, you know, because they weren't. And, and I mean strict on it in a way of,
we're not doing this.
Did they actually look at the science?
Right.
You know, that we know now,
right.
4 years later, of course. But anyways, and, you know, another net negative is for sure what we said about the price.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just mentioned it. That 150 could be total, or some places it could be almost yearly you're paying that.
And again, I've looked at even kids who have gotten help from their parents and, you know, they decide to go to the doctorate route or something like that.
Right.
They're $200,000 plus.
Yeah, and then they're in debt for the rest of their life almost.
But and again, if they want to take that on and that's what it is, like that's what they make that decision, like, okay. Like you're like, passion is chiropractic or physical therapy or pre-med, et cetera, whatever it is, sure, do it, but understand that you better follow the path through because let's say you get 6 years in, you're like, I don't know if this is for me. Well, you're 6 years in, you're 120 grand down.
Right.
You might want to finish the game at this point in time.
Right.
Or I guess you can drop out. But, you know, so you have to ask all these questions, and that's why it's actually interesting because I actually would recommend to most possible future parents that are listening to this as well, give your kid options to maybe explore a few jobs or fields before they go to college. If they really want to go to college after, truthfully, if I look back on it hindsight wise and what I could have done, I really wish I would have worked a couple other jobs, continue to find out that fitness was a passion of mine, gone into that, started training a little bit. Okay, this is what I want to do. I actually could benefit from having a degree.
Right.
21, 22 years old, then I go to college.
Right.
Instead, I jumped right in to college at 18 years old. For me, that wasn't a great idea. There's very few people. My brother is one of these very few people that knew what they wanted to do. Mitch wanted to do computer science, cybersecurity right off the bat. He graduated in 3 years and was right out in the workforce after that.
And now he's doing really well for himself.
Exactly. So, but Mitchell is very much so a high IQ, unusual individual with that.
Right.
Most people change their major 3 to 4 times in college.
Exactly.
So I would rather my kid discover, okay, do I want to go this route? Do I like more the construction route, the blue collar route? Do I like hands-on stuff? Do I like training like my dad does in my case and whatnot? That type of stuff.
Could be trade school.
Exactly. And which trade school's phenomenal.
Yeah,
by the way.
those types of jobs literally will never go away.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, they're going to be harsh on your body.
Sure.
For sure. There's no doubt about that. And you can make arguments with that is like that worth it. You can still take care of your body as a tradesman.
Right.
Like there's no doubt about it. And be healthy still.
There's the military. That's another one. Law enforcement or firefighters, things like that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, especially for like fire and EMS and things like that, you still have to go to
still intense.
Somewhat of a med school for. I was just talking to a firefighter, actually, a local one here. For like EMS school, like you got to go to 2 years of a version of med school. That takes anywhere from 18 to 24 months. And then you have fire school, which is about 11 weeks. So you're still looking at some schooling, but at least with that, it's just straight to the point. Like this is exactly, you're learning what you need for this job. Mm-hmm. You don't have to take a year and a half or 2 years of gen eds where we can charge you 40 grand a year to teach you everything you just learned in high school, and things like that. Yeah. So I think that's kind of part of the scam of college as well, is the first 2 years are basically year 5 and 6 of high school. Not always, but like my associate's degree, it was basically a continuation of college. Obviously are the classes a little bit more advanced than high school? Sure. Is there still some crossover? Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Are there different types of classes you can still take to pass your gen eds? Yeah, I took an astronomy class. It was awesome. I loved it. Mm-hmm. I still talk about it all the time. That was something that interested me, so that was cool. Did it have anything to do with the direction I wanted to go? No, but it was still an interesting class, something different as well. You can't take astronomy in high school.
It's important to be well versed on multiple topics as well.
Yeah. And if something's going to interest you, then by all means, if it's something that will interest you and will allow you to get through those first 2 years, then by all means do it.
Exactly.
That was an example for me.
Yep.
So, as far as the negatives go, that's kind of what we had. the social issues surrounding college right now are very in your face on all kinds of social media.
Right.
We see a lot of the extremes of, the Charlie Kirks sitting at the table and getting in a yelling match with these people that, quite frankly, don't know anything.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's not really like a good thing to dunk on somebody who has no intelligence at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And are those videos fun to laugh at and stuff? Of course they are.
This guy's a dumbass.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Like, what do we gain out of this?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you maybe, if you're Charlie Kirk in those situations, do you maybe change one person's mind? Okay, maybe. Then it's a positive.
Right.
But it's like, is the majority of the college populations like that? Probably not. Probably not. But even still, when you have these people that go into college as just a normal boy or girl, and then a couple years in, or they graduate and then they think they're a different gender, or have 85 piercings on their face, or have 6 different colors in their hair, it's like, did we really make the impact we wanted to? You know what I mean?
Yeah, them having a gender studies degree and having $100,000 in debt, is that really what we want to?
Exactly.
Is that, do we gain something?
Right. Yeah. And then they want us to tip them at Starbucks.
Well, that's what literally though.
Yeah.
But that's the overarching point of the negatives there though, is like the ROI of it. Like, are you actually getting a return on investment? Is the actual question that has to be asked of. Am I going to go into a productive major? Because if you're going into gender studies or African American studies or ethnic studies or essentially something useless like that we know is not going to be productive in the real world, you shouldn't be going to college like that. Like, you're like, the only reason you should be going to college is you're going to do a productive major that can actually benefit you long term.
Right.
That could be a bachelor's degree in accounting. That could be something as simple as getting an exercise science degree and whatnot, which is a very useful degree, as you and I know.
For sure.
It could be as simple as going the pre-med or DPT or the DC route with the chiropractic and the physical therapy. It could be one of those, or your engineering, etc. So you have to decide, okay, is this actually going to be worth it? And that's why another thing too is like, that's why like college credit in high school is so important too. If you're already knocking out college credit, okay, that's big too, because you're going to save some money.
Right.
And then I already know some direction because I took the right classes in high school. This is why high school is so important for you high schoolers listening and whatnot, and for your future parents, and telling your kids why high school and school is so important too, because it actually gives you direction. If your kid hasn't really responded well, it's like, I don't like sitting in a class all day and just like, yeah, I got a solid 3.5 GPA or whatnot, but it really wasn't for me. Okay, we consider the trades or the military, or going into the certification route like we did and whatnot,
or entrepreneurship,
like an ISSA or an NASM CPT and whatnot, certified personal trainer, or entrepreneurship and whatnot too. Because you can teach those type of skills as well and encourage your kid along that route. Especially like in my case at Health Source, like I'm under another entrepreneur, Chad, and I can learn from him while he does his journey as well, which is interesting because like this, I'm learning more from this than I ever would have in school, in a business class in school, by far.
Because hands-on training is really how you and I learn really well.
Exactly. So you have to really evaluate yourself, and you have to really evaluate your kids if you're parents, because it's not as simple as just, oh yeah, they're going to college. Right. Okay.
What do they want to do? They don't really know yet.
You know how many undecided majors I knew when I was at Iowa State? It's like, that was like probably 15-20% of the people I met. Yeah. It's like, you cannot be in college if you're undecided on stuff. Right. That is just dumb.
It's just wasting money.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
And if that's the case, like that's a very good pro for community college. Doing the A+ program. Exactly. I don't know if A+ is in other states, but at least in Missouri it is here. You have very easy requirements to fulfill while in high school. And for those of you that are high schoolers listening to this, like, and you're in Missouri, like, do A+, because one, if you end up going to community college, it's paid for. All you do is pay for your books. Okay, like, that's all you pay for.
Huge.
Your books.
Huge. Yeah.
Two, there are state schools, a Mizzou, a Missouri State. Again, I don't know if this is in other states or not, but those schools will honor A+, and you're not getting your Mizzou tuition paid for, but you might get $500. Doesn't sound like a lot.
Or you might knock out credits and graduate in 3 years like Mitch did.
You could. It might be $500 off of $14,000, but $13,500 is better than $14,000. You know what I mean? Like, it's still money you're saving. So if you're in Missouri and you're in high school, please do the A+. It's so simple to fulfill the requirements, It takes very little extra effort from you while you're in high school. It's essentially get good grades, be a good human, and you have to do a little bit of service hours. You know, like I teacher aided for my varsity baseball coach's weightlifting class. It was easy. You know, that's the point. It's very easy, and to do those, you then get 2 free years of college if you go community college. You know, and if you're undecided, that's what community college can be for. Knock the 2 years out, possibly have them paid for. You could still work. Like, it's awesome. I really do recommend that.
I mean, the thing is, you're nailing this right now, because what we're actually doing with this episode is not here to shit on college or say it's the best thing ever. It's to give an objective view of it. It's to actually give, you know, start a discussion, because, again, college is still thought of as the only gold standard in a lot of circles. Not every circle, of course. Like, a lot of circles know that it's not the case, but the point is to ask questions on if it's worth it or not, and to be logical and straightforward about how you go about choosing whether or not you should go to college. You know, you have to, you know, have you knocked out a bunch of credits already? Okay, that's pretty helpful and could put you way ahead of the schedule. At school, you could already have your gen eds knocked out, which is huge. You know, do you have kind of an affinity for math? Maybe accounting, engineering, we look into that realm and whatnot. You know, so it's really, really, and this goes especially for the parents, just because neighbor Susie sent their kid to college does not mean your kid has to go too. And again, this is not me being cocky, but this is just being true. There is so many other kids that I know that, you know, my parents wanted me to go to college for sure. But they can even sit here and say, Jacob is doing better mentally, physically, and he also is making smarter decisions in his life than the kids who have gone to college. You know, and like they're in a really bad spot themselves in their life, or something else is going on and stuff like that. You know, so even in my case, I can speak on my end. Like, just because I did not finish out the last year, or have not finished out the last year of college, it has not been a detriment to me. The only thing that has been a detriment is if I wanted to go into like exercise physiology or something like that and be a researcher, which I would never be a researcher because I would be horrible in a lab. But, you know, that's what's always funny, because, you know, a lot of the times, like, man, what a good kid, and it's measured by if they went to college or not. That doesn't measure if somebody's a good kid or not. Like, there's no way. How you get measured as a good kid and a good human being is actually your values, how you present yourself, how you treat others, you know, what type of stuff you stand up for, which is important too. It's not just, you know, being this always nice person and whatnot. Sometimes being nice or doing the right thing is telling somebody the truth, or being honest about something, or standing on your ground when you should be. COVID's a good example of that. You know, I had to do that at school a bunch of times, like all the time. That was an issue I dealt with there when I was in college. And so this is not, because I learned a ton from college. But again, I only learned a ton from my classes that were for exercise science. That's the point. Like, my classes I took, if I could take all exercise science, physiology / fitness management classes, kinesiology, because college would have been a breeze. It would have been a breeze for me. You know, those classes I crushed with 85, 90% plus every time. But then the gen eds came in, and I'm like getting through all. Like, so it's hard for some, like, that's a big thing too. Like, you know, I look back to high school and I'm like, I kind of should have picked up on this myself, because I would be in high school and the classes that I'm like, why am I here? Like, this is pointless. I wouldn't put any effort into. Which, you know, probably isn't great. And I'm like, I've gotten better at putting effort into things like I don't really need to be, or whatever you want to call it. But, you know, like, I could have recognized then, like, okay, chemistry, I'm not going to put any effort into, or at least it's going to be hard for me to sit down and focus on, because I don't think it's useful. You know? And of course I didn't do well in that class. I passed it, but it wasn't a great pass. I'll tell you that right now. You know? So, there's other options. College is still a really good thing, but you just need to be for sure on your direction. You should not come in and spend 2 years fumbling around, not knowing what you're doing, and you're already 50 grand in the hole. That's not good, and that cannot happen. And shouldn't. So,
100%. Well, guys, that is YouTube exclusive number 6. As always, please continue sharing the show, sharing these videos, sharing the vlogs, Instagram posts, things like that. If you guys don't know how to submit Q&A questions for the podcasts, go listen to a podcast episode, and you will find out exactly how to submit those questions to us.
Making them work for it, huh?
That's right.
I like that.
That's right.
I like that.
So guys, as always, until next time, peace and love.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.